It's happening. Trump's legal team is beginning to close in on the Democrats. In this video, we're going to take a look at how things are really beginning to heat up in the courts, how the Supreme Court is poised to come in and render a decisive verdict, and how that verdict looks like it's going to end up dashing any hopes that Biden had at becoming president. You're not going to want to miss this. Welcome, everyone. Dr. Steve here with you, ready to bring you our latest episode celebrating the inevitable collapse of left-wing globalism and the unstoppable rise of a new conservative age. So if you haven't already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. I'd love to have you as a regular part of this channel, where each and every day we focus on optimism and encouragement in the midst of all the defeatist fake news nonsense spewed out by the mainstream media. Before we get into things here, did you know that studies show that air quality inside our homes is actually less safe than outdoors? Air pollution could actually be 2 to 5 times higher indoors than outdoors. So that's why I've got the amazing clean air device in my home. This device is an air purifier and air ionizer that eliminates up to 99.7% of indoor air pollutants. Now, I partnered with the creators behind Amazing Clean Air to give my audience 50% off your own purifier if you click on that link down below today. That's right, 50% off, but it's a limited time offer. Click on that link below or go to amazingcleanair.com. It's amazingcleanair.com and purify the air quality in your home today. All right, let's dive right in here. Right now as we speak, things are starting to really heat up in the courts for the Trump legal team in such a way that they are very noticeably closing in on the Democrats. Remember, the Trump team is fighting this battle on two fronts, and we can see the two fronts of this battle working in conjunction with each other. So you've got the legislative front, where we're seeing hearings in Pennsylvania, hearings in Arizona, Michigan, and Georgia, which is all about getting the Republican majority legislatures to step up and reassert their constitutional authority over this election process. And on the other side, we've got the legal front, where the Trump legal team is filing various motions to ultimately make it all the way to the Supreme Court to get them to give the cover that these legislatures need to act decisively in either appointing Republican electors who will vote for President Trump on December 14th when the electors meet, or kick this into the House of Representatives where every state gets one vote. If it goes into the House of Representatives, a team of delegates is sent from each state's legislature, which casts a single vote for the president, which would mean 31 Republican states versus 19 Democrat states, each with one vote, and Trump secures his reelection easily. So we've been talking a lot about the legislative front of late, but we really are beginning to see things narrow down in the courts, and that's what I want to go over with you today. I want to sort of organize for you what's happening in the courts right now with all of this, because it really is very, very interesting. What we're seeing right now is very specific cases emerge as all of the dross, shall we say, the more bold cases start dropping off. We're beginning to see the cases emerge here that have real teeth. And the key here is that you have multiple different players, each playing a different role in this, of course. So you've got Trump's legal team, his own personal lawyers. You've got challenges coming from Trump's campaign. You've got challenges coming from concerned citizens like Lynn Wood in Georgia, and of course Sidney Powell and her multifaceted Kraken lawsuit. It's so funny. Only with President Trump are you going to have a lawsuit called the Kraken, right? He never goes small. That's why we love him. So there are multiple players here. Everyone is playing a different role. So let's look particularly at the role of the Trump team. What they're doing is they're focusing not so much on fraud anymore, but on illegal conduct by election officials, improprieties by election officials that violated the law. So this doesn't have anything to do with all the various cases that got thrown out. Most of those cases were filed by parties other than the Trump team. They were filed before the election. Most were thrown out because of a lack of standing. But now what we're seeing are the cases that have real teeth to them, very specific cases. So for example, we report on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court's interference with Act 77. Back in 2019, the Pennsylvania legislature passed a law simply called Act 77. It permitted all voters to cast their votes by mail, but it absolutely and unequivocally required that all mail-in ballots must be received by 8 p.m. Election Day, when the polls officially close. Any and all ballots received after this time are simply not valid. Now, when this law came before the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, they disagreed with the 8 p.m. election day deadline. So a few weeks before the November 3rd election, by a vote to 4-3, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court decided that mailed-in ballots emphatically do not need to be received by 8 p.m. election day. Instead, they moved the goalpost, as it were, to the date that the ballot was postmarked. As long as a ballot was postmarked on or before election day and received within upwards of 3 days thereafter, the vote will be counted. So, no matter what your position is on the nature of Act 77, the provisions stated therein, or what the court didn't respond, regardless of any of that, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court obviously and blatantly rewrote the law. The court intervened in such a way that expressly changed the law from the unambiguous, non-negotiable deadline of 8 p.m. on election day to a new standard of postmarking on the election day in general, and received within 3 days after the election. Now, here's the problem. Supreme Court Justice Sam Alito has put a stay on all the votes that came in late after 8 p.m. He's ordered that all votes received after 8 p.m. be separated from the vote tally, and that stay is still in effect. Now, why is that stay still in effect? Jordan Sakulo was recently interviewed on Newsmax, where he noted that the Supreme Court is waiting to see if there are enough cases to take, and this is key, where it is outcome determinative, which means that if the Supreme Court were to side with Trump, it would change the outcome of the election. That's actually the only reason why the Supreme Court would step in. It's very interesting. Go big or go home, right? If this is just all about election technicalities that weren't followed, improprieties that were committed, but it doesn't change the outcome of the election, then the Supreme Court is just like, dude, I mean, let your legislatures handle this. We ain't getting involved. We got other fish to fry. So it's got to be outcome determinative. Only then is the Supreme Court going to step in. And Sam Alito, by keeping this stay, this order requiring all votes received after 8 p.m. on election day in Pennsylvania separated from the vote tally, he's signaling that the court is in fact waiting to see if whether enough cases arise to the Supreme Court level that will change the outcome of the election. If they see that, they're going to act. And their actions may most certainly overturn this election, perhaps as soon as the next several days. And that's because we're beginning to see precisely that. We're beginning to see court challenges that promise to overturn this election. But first, I will invite all of you to our Insiders Club exclusive live Q&A that's scheduled for tonight, Thursday night, December 3rd at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. It's only for our Insiders Club members. And if you're not a member, we want you to be a part of this exclusive live Q&A. So all you got to do is click on that link below, sign up to become an Insiders member, and you're going to get your first 2 weeks absolutely free, no obligation. So make sure to click on that link below, sign up for our Insiders Club, get your first 2 weeks absolutely free, and I'll see you tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern for our exclusive live Q&A. All right, so one of the latest court cases to arise is in Arizona, which we just talked about in our earlier video. A judge there ordered an audit of just 100 of what are called corrected ballots. These are ballots that come in a little messed up, and so electors try to fix them. And what they found was that two of the 100, went to Biden that were supposed to go to Trump. The ballots were fraudulently altered, and the judge in Arizona said that because the margin of Biden's lead is so small in Arizona, the court has no choice but to expand that audit now to 2,500 corrected ballots, the results of which we should have in a couple of days. So we're seeing in Arizona another outcome determinative ruling where the judge believes that the amount of fraud may indeed overturn the election results in Arizona. Then you have the megaton lawsuit that Trump dropped on Wisconsin the other day. Again, a highly outcome determinative lawsuit where they're calling for over 220,000 ballots to be thrown out. Now, if you don't know, Wisconsin's pretty amazing here because the Republican legislature there made it virtually impossible to cheat by mail-in ballots. Wisconsin doesn't allow mail-in ballots to be sent out without a written request from the voter. The voter has to submit a written request by Wisconsin law in order to receive a mail-in ballot. If a mail-in ballot is cast but there's no record of a written request, then the ballot by law has to be cast out. And so the Trump legal team filed for a recount in Wisconsin in order to go through all of the ballots. That was a couple of weeks back. It took them over 10 days to complete. They just completed the recount last Sunday. Throughout these last several days, Republican officials went through every single ballot in Dane County, where Madison is, and in Milwaukee County, and they were able to sit and personally review each ballot. And as a result, we now have over 200,000 ballots that the Trump campaign has announced that they are going to challenge in court. Biden only has a 20,000 vote so-called lead, right, in Wisconsin. So a 220,000 plus vote disqualification lawsuit is clearly outcome determinative. Then you had the lawsuit in Georgia that we covered, which involves a judge impounding Dominion voting systems machines in 3 counties for forensic audit, which would be very, very interesting indeed. Again, we're dealing with a radically small lead margin for Biden, and any discovered irregularity threatens that lead margin. And then one of the latest developments is in Clark County, Nevada, or some would say Nevada. They had a court order there that said a team representing Trump could inspect the Dominion voting system machines, but the Clark County officials wouldn't let them do that. That was, I believe, today. The tech experts weren't allowed to examine the Dominion voting system in any significant way, despite obtaining a court order allowing them to do so. And so what we're finding here is that Dominion is stalling, and the Trump campaign is going to Carson City, Nevada, to get another judge to come in and intervene, which they should happen. It will be very fascinating to see the kind of frauds and improprieties going on in Clark County there. But the main point in all of this is that we're really seeing a number of lawsuits being successfully waged with judges giving very favorable rulings precisely because they believe these cases to be outcome determinative. If the Trump team wins their case, they will overturn the election results in these states, and if these cases continue to accumulate, as they are with Lynn Wood and Sidney Powell's cases, right? She just released part of the Kraken in Wisconsin today. If all these cases continue to come together and are indeed outcome determinative, our 5-vote conservative bloc in the Supreme Court will indeed take these cases up and render a decision that may end up dashing any hope of Biden ever becoming president. Now, before you go, make sure to like this video, comment down below, and definitely subscribe to my channel. And you'll definitely want to check out my latest video on how a recent Arizona ballot audit has indeed uncovered significant voter fraud as the state of Georgia announces new investigations into the election fiasco. You're not going to want to miss it. So make sure to click on the link, and I will see you over there. God bless.